Aloha. So my final project is on Bob Marley. Considered several other topics, but decided to go ahead and do Bob Marley just because we listened to a lot of his music, and so it was really interesting to research his life and also a lot of the history behind his music. So Robert Nesta Marley, he's born in Jamaica, February 6th of 1945. His mother was a Jamaican woman. Her name was Adela Booker. She was 18 years old, and his father was an English captain that was stationed in Jamaica. His name was Norval Sinclair Marley, and he was 50 years old, so there's quite an age difference. He grew up mostly with his mother. He experienced a childhood of poverty and was exposed to a lot of violence and discrimination, racism. Um, and these are things that he was exposed to that inspired his music. He moved to Kingston during his teen years and attended the Stepney School in Kingston, and later acquired a trade as a welder before his musical career. He later married Alpha Rita Anderson, known as Rita Marley. She's actually one of my favorite music artists. She was a nurse and a singer and part of the I3 group. And they later became the backup singers for Bob Marley and the Wailers, and we'll talk about them in a few slides to come. But their children were Ziggy, Sharon, Sedella, Stephen, and Damien, and they made up the Melody Makers. I have a short clip here, one of Rita Marley's songs, just to kind of introduce the reggae music and the melody. I think she has a wonderful voice. Um, so we'll go ahead and listen to that. So that was a little clip of Rita Marley. I wanted to start out with that just so you could hear her voice and her style of music, and then you can later recognize her voice if you ever listen to any of Bob Marley's other songs where she's the backup singer. So a little information, back up a little bit on Jamaica, where Bob Marley is from. We see the motto, out of many, one people, which is ironic because of the segregation and the oppression um, that he was faced with in Jamaica, and which is what inspired his music. And other important facts here, official language was English and national language was Jamaican Patos. And there are some other interesting and cool facts there. Going on about Jamaica, different religions that were represented there in Jamaica. Christianity seemed to have been the largest percentage of 24%. And then there were several other different religions that were present in Jamaica. The Rastafarian is the one religion that reggae pretty much came from. And Rastafarianism was what Bob Marley believed in and based his music on. Originally, he was brought up with Christianity. He, because of his upbringing with his mother and his involvement in the church choir, is what kind of brought awareness to his musical abilities, and he developed his ability to sing from there. He was then converted to Rastafarianism through his spiritual mentor, which is Mortimo Plano. And then he had other influences that affected his beliefs as well. His close friends Joe Higgs and Bunny Livingston were the other influences of the Rasta faith. We talked a little bit about how he faced racism and he grew up in poverty and difficult circumstances. Jamaica's lower classes suffered deplorable living conditions, significant reductions in wages, high unemployment, and virtually non-existent workers' rights. Popular protests grew, and basically the blacks were oppressed, as well as brown middle classes. So Bob did experience a lot of hardships, as we mentioned before, and along with his newfound religion, these were the things that affected him and eventually affected his music as he was developing these musical traits. So it all kind of meshed together. He also listened, as was mentioned in Brother Cameron's his DVDs about Bob Marley when he talked about pop culture. He listened to James Brown and Aretha Franklin, and so he had that R&B background and blues, and so the music was kind of similar to what the blues was, the meaning in that sense, because it was his way, it was a coping strategy. That's what it served as a purpose to him, was singing about the problems that they were faced with. So Bob Marley's revolution, his notion of revolution comes from everyday resistance to oppression. His music inspired those that were being oppressed, influenced many to stand up for their rights. His music also told the political standpoints and united people and gave them hope. And his music believed in change. So it gave the people a sense of hope that there's still good that can come about. So he originally began his career, he formed the group The Wailing Wailers, and their first song was Simmer Down. I have a little clip of that. He came up with that name of that group because he explained that in those days we were always crying. kind of talking about what they were going through. But the song Simmer Down was sending a message to the ghettos, referring to all the conflict between the Rastas and the authorities. So he's kind of telling everyone, just chill, just simmer down. So that's the purpose of that song. The Wailers later formed with, he later formed the Wailers with Pete Tosh and Bunny Livingston in 1967. So we'll go ahead and listen to that clip of the Wailing Wailers singing Simmer Down. So that was a pretty interesting clip. You could kind of hear the different influences of the instruments and kind of the R&B and also the blues mixed in there with the reggae. This was another song, War No More Trouble. I just thought the lyrics really stood out. And the lyrics are as follows. Until the philosophy which hold one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently discredited and abandoned, everywhere is war, me say war. That until there are no longer first class and second class citizens of any nation, until the color of man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes, me say war. That pretty much stood out to me because he was preaching and singing about peace and how everyone needs to be equal. I think that's why reggae has become such a worldwide phenomenon, because of the underlying message of peace. And there's segregation everywhere. You'll find that in every country, in every city. And that's why I titled this slide Freedom Fighter. In 1972, Bob Marley and the Wailers were found by Chris Blackwell with Island Records. They received their U.S. label and were recognized internationally. And Freedom Fighter, because the music of inspiration has brought inspiration around the world to help us to recognize that there is segregation and to open our eyes to have peace and love for everyone. This quote here was from Lucky Dubé, another reggae artist who faced oppression and segregation. And he says, as far as I'm concerned, apartheid and discrimination don't only happen in South Africa. It is only South Africa that happens to have it in its books. This is a message to people over the whole world. And I'll stop right there. Yes, there is discrimination all over the world. And this music, although it was based on the Rastafarian religion, its message was a message of peace. And I believe that's why reggae music is so worldwide. Also because the music itself has catchy beats and good rhythms. And eventually Bob Marley did die on May 11th, 1981. He died of cancer. By the time they found the cancer, it had spread throughout his body. But his message of peace continues to live on, And so that's why Bob Marley was such a legend. And I'll go ahead and end this with another clip of his music, one of my favorites. I never forget no way. They crucified righteousness Christ. Yes. I never forget no way. This old man was counting for rice. I never forget no way. of time, I'm not able to show that full clip, but I hope you enjoyed this presentation as much as I